Hi, everyone. Happy, what is it, Wednesday night? Is it Wednesday?
It's
Happy Wednesday night. It's been a long day. It's been a great day, but I am not in my normal office. I am in a hotel after a fantastic day of doing model lessons in a middle school that is just getting going with writing with design. So shout out to Horizon Middle School in Colorado in the Sand Creek Zone in District 49. It was a magical day. So I'm exhausted, but also really excited to be here to talk more about writing tonight. It's like I can't get enough writing all day and then all night.
And I am in my regular area. I moved from my office to my living room. I have spent my day in the office writing skills focus activities, all on extending sentences. And our library is growing. I see it growing every day. I see the numbers going up, and so is the list of the ones I need to make. Right now we're at 144, so we'll see what we're at in a week.
I mean, that's doable. That's a day's
Totally.
work.
I'll get that done by Sunday, probably. No big deal.
Yeah, I know. That's just what's so fun. Like when we're in classrooms and just going through the resources, there's just this constant like, ooh, let's turn this into an SFA. And then, and we need it for the different levels. And so it's just so fun to see that library grow. And
well, not only for different levels, it's like I was working on one today on extending sentences in different ways. And it's like, you can't do all informational, argumentative, and narrative in one. So then I've got to make it into 3. But it's so great because I really love argumentative because you can really see the power of one sentence, like persuading you to a point in just one sentence. And it's really cool to see how just at that sentence level, informational, argumentative, and narrative are so different from one another.
They are. Yeah, it's incredible. So I'm so excited for all the SFAs and just for where we're going with writing and our topic tonight. I mean, paraphrasing and summarizing is just such a tricky, really, they're very separate but related topics. And so we're going to get into that. I think this is going to be a several part series for us because there's just so much. And, we have to make it something we can talk through in a night's time. Yeah. So before we dive into Say It Your Way, let's talk for a second about
writing contests. So we did mention this a couple weeks ago, but we have a back to school writing contest. We decided to extend it to getting that word right out. September 20th instead of August 20th, because we know a lot of you guys are still maybe haven't started school yet, and we want teachers to have the opportunity to say to their class, hey, look at this writing contest. I mean, maybe this is even something you do with your class. Have everybody do this. And you can see we've got 3 different grade bands. All of these are poetry based, which really takes a lot of pressure off of your students from that early beginning of the year writing expectations. And this really is a chance. Honestly, if you were to do this with your class, it gives you a really good opportunity to get to know your students, because all of these poems are in some way, shape, or form about like just them telling you about themselves in different ways. So this is on our social media, and I will make sure to share this again this week. And each of those has different guidelines for the 3 different grade bands. And teachers, if your student wins, so do you.
Yeah, that's really exciting. It's a win-win, right? Students will win some gift cards and then our teachers as well. So yeah.
And who doesn't love a gift card?
Right. So many good little supplies you can get. So yeah, so we're so excited to get entries coming in, and just want to encourage you to send us yours. Get your students writing and telling about them, and who knows, they might just win.
Yes.
All right. Well, poetry and getting to know students is such an important part of getting going with the school year. It really actually ties into what we're talking about tonight with paraphrasing and getting students to really dive deep with their thinking. And that's why we're so excited to talk about it tonight. That, when you hear about paraphrasing and when you know your students need to do it, it just can feel overwhelming. Like, what exactly is it? And how do we do it? And one thing we want to start off with saying is that it's not busy work. Paraphrasing I love this phrase. It's a generative learning strategy, which just means that it's making their brains better. It's making their brains smarter. Is it hard? Yes. Does it take grappling and grit and time? And no, that's not quite it. And let's come back to that. And I can't quite think of the right word. Yes, it takes all of that. But it is this powerful bridge between reading and writing. And that to me just shows its value in writing across the curriculum, right? When you are having your students write from text and pull from sources and paraphrase that information, you're not only working on writing, but you're solidifying their reading skills, which is like is there anything better?
Well,
I don't think so.
and not only is it not busy work, it's something important to not avoid. Amber knows this, but when I taught in Florida, I taught in the third biggest school district in Florida. And from the top down, we were told to not teach paraphrasing because
That
it
blows
can
my mind.
be, yeah, because it can be, when students paraphrase, they might plagiarize. And that is very well an option. But avoiding it altogether doesn't teach them how to do it correctly, right? If you don't do it, then they don't understand that word, and then they confuse summarizing with it. And
Mhm.
so, don't avoid it. It can be scary. It is a big task, but it is important for them to know how to do it so they don't plagiarize, because if they don't paraphrase, then they very well might plagiarize.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we find, right? That most students who plagiarize don't even realize they're doing it. They just don't know what to do. So there's a ton of research. As always, we want to share that with you. So lots are listed here, but I think it can be really summed up. It can be summarized by what's up at the top, that it's not just a writing skill. It is that powerful cognitive strategy that is linked to deeper comprehension, memory, and learning. So it just is one of the most robust ways that you can incorporate writing into your classes. And so, from active processing and comprehension to improved memory to metacognition and self-monitoring, which is a huge focus of just getting kids to kind of know what they're doing, what their brains are doing while they're working on a learning task. That's huge and needed at every age. Of course, writing development, and there's my guy a couple times there with his research about the importance of paraphrasing to integrate reading and writing, and also not have students plagiarize but synthesize their learning. And then lastly, just content learning across the subject. So there's so much here in terms of kind of 5 key categories of how it improves learning. And so you can certainly dive deeper if you want with all of those great pieces. But what we want to talk to specifically tonight is what's the difference between paraphrasing and summarizing, and then how do you get started with paraphrasing? So we won't cover all of this. There's a tremendous amount when it comes
We'd
to
be
how
here
to.
till, 2 in the morning.
Yeah, I did have some coffee today, but I'm not sure I can handle that. So we're gonna make this a several part series so we can all walk through it. But first, I want to kind of talk through what paraphrasing is like, because when we can make connections for students and show them that it's not this big, bad, kind of academic, scary thing, then it makes it so much more interesting and doable for them. So these are just some really fun analogies. So we like to start off by saying paraphrasing is like taking flour and sugar and eggs and butter and mixing those all together and turning it into a cake, right?
Yeah.
That's a paraphrase. It's the same stuff, it's just mixed up, right?
Mhm.
Or if we take a fruit platter and we arrange it, we make it beautiful, we charge a lot of money for it, we could make an
Dip it
edible
in
arrangement.
chocolate. Got dip it in chocolate too.
Oh yeah, add in some chocolate. Yes, perfect. But again, same stuff, right? It's still the fruit, it just looks different.
Yeah.
Or a pile of clothes. This one always gets students' attention. Like, what? What do you mean a pile of clothes? But if you take a pile of clothes, you sort it, you fold it, you organize it, that's a paraphrase. It's the same stuff, right? It's that same set of clothes, but now it's more orderly and it's sorted and it's ready to be put away. And that's what I love about all of these, is it's hinting at different things about what paraphrases can do. Paraphrases can completely kind of change the way information looks, like in that first example, but it's still the same stuff, right? It just looks totally different. It could be beautified, or it could be arranged differently, like in the second one, or it could be organized better, right? So all of these are getting at also, why do we paraphrase? There's bigger reasons that are symbolized in these examples. So we love for students to think that to paraphrase means it's the same stuff, it's just mixed up differently. So here's a few more that are just really fun for students to start to get going with. And today, even at Horizon, students were, by this one, they were like, oh, Mrs. Parks, I know that's a bow, right? Or a pile of damp sand. What's that? Sandcastle or sand sculpture, as I wrote on here. And then lastly, my favorite, because I love to demonstrate in this in classrooms too, is taking all these ingredients, fruit and veggies and yogurt and ice, and turning it into a smoothie, right? That is a paraphrase. Every time you make a smoothie, you are paraphrasing. And so for students to realize, like, oh my gosh, when I have a smoothie, that's paraphrase, it makes such a great connection for them to that academic skill. So now you can start to say, like, hey, we got to turn that writing into a smoothie, right? We got to take that article and make a smoothie out of it. And they get what you mean. Mm-hmm. Okay, now summarizing. How is summarizing different? Because again, those words get tossed around like they're the same thing, and they're not. They are quite different. So summarizing is like a cake shrinking to, not that we would ever want to shrink a cake. I know you, especially Tabitha, would not.
No, I would want to eat that whole cake.
A fan of that. But if we did have a shrinking machine and we took a cake and lasered it with that machine, we could get a cupcake. Right, yeah. Probably not as good as yours. Again, Tabitha, this one's really in honor of you, but at least an attempt, right? But a cupcake really is a mini cake. It is a summary of a cake. You get everything that's in a cake just in a miniature size, in a summarized size, right? Or that fruit platter, right? You don't go up to in a party and go take the whole fruit platter.
Well, if you do, you might get kicked out of the party.
Right. Yeah. Note to everyone listening, don't go take the whole fruit platter. But instead, you make a fruit bowl, right? That is a summary. You take just a little bit of all the different options. That's a summary. Or a pile of laundry. What could it be? Now, twice today, students said socks. Why would socks be what you would get as the summary of a pile of laundry?
They're condensing it down to like the lost pile, maybe.
I guess so. I thought that was so random, but middle schoolers are just fun that way, right?
They're totally different planetary level.
Right. So I'm like, okay, well, socks could be a part of the summary, but they're not the only part of the summary. Let's hope, right? That's not a complete outfit, right? And that's really what we're getting at here is like one outfit is a summary of your pile of clothes. Or, and this is my other favorite one to demonstrate in classrooms, if you have those vacuum seal bags at your house, or you use them for like your puffy coats or your down comforters or whatever that's big and just takes up a ton of room, pillows even. I love these bags for this demonstration purpose, because as you hook on the hose of the vacuum and you suck out all the air, just watching that bag get smaller and smaller and also denser, like it feels so heavy when you lift it. That's a summary. And it's just such a cool experience for students to watch and then feel that they will never forget what a summary is after that. So a summary is the most condensed, the shortest version. That is what we want them to always think when they hear summary. It means shortest, or shrink it down, right? So a few more. A freight train. Now, students today also guessed car and bus, and I was.
It goes down to like a cabin, right? Like a single.
Close. You will like this one because of what it's made out of.
Oh, Legos! Oh my gosh, I'm a little embarrassed I didn't guess that.
Well, I mean, it could be, there's so many different types of like model trains, but I love that one because it's made out of Legos. I'm like, that's, who doesn't love putting together Legos like that? All right. Now, this one is, to me, sacrilegious. We should never shrink down a steak. But if you do, what does it become?
I actually know this one, but I cheated earlier. It's jerky.
It's jerky, right? Yeah. So anytime students are eating jerky, they are summarizing. It is a summary of a steak. And lastly, grapes. And we have to be careful with this one because sometimes we get other answers to this. But if you shrink down grapes, not turn it into something else, then
I was trying to think of like what it was. I'm with you now.
Yeah, so actually,
If you dry out the grapes.
there we go. If you dry out the grapes,
Yeah.
what do you get? It's raisins, and that is the summary.
See, that's sacrilegious to me because raisins just don't hold a candle to grapes.
Right? Yeah, I know. Some students today, though, had no idea. It blew their mind that raisins and grapes are
Really?
a thing. Yeah, yeah. They were this many days old in middle school, realizing that they were the same thing, which was pretty cool. But then one actually shouted out wine, and I'm like, usually that's reserved for teachers to say in the trainings, but okay, dude. But no, it's not a summary. But what is wine? It's the same stuff. It's just mixed up and fermented. So it's a paraphrase. So there you go.
It's an aged paraphrase.
It's an aged paraphrase. I love it. So yeah, so if you are enjoying a glass of wine, listening to us, then you are paraphrasing. You're doing some academic work tonight. It's good. It's all good. So they really are different, right? They have very different purposes, and that's really important for students to really understand. And honestly, for us as educators and prompt writers to make sure that we're being clear on that. And we'll cover that in a future session about writing prompts for paraphrasing and summarizing, because these words are interchanged and really very convolutedly, is that a word? Or I don't know. They're just mixed up and they're vague in the prompts. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's also important, I feel like, to note that even though students do confuse them, these skills really do need to be taught together. Like, these aren't really skills that you can teach in isolation, right? Like, you can't. I mean, it's really hard to understand one without understanding the other, because you really need to understand the differences to fully grasp both of these skills.
Yep. They're like a yin and yang, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was a missed opportunity for a visual tonight.
Oh, well, next episode we'll have it. So I wanted to just show you this because, to your point, there is so much overlap between writing to paraphrase and writing to summarize. So this is coming out of our binder. I actually pulled the one from our 2nd through 12th grade binder. This is our comparing design that shows the similarities and the differences. And look at how much overlaps between the two. And that's where really great instruction, really great practice, and really thorough discussions are needed to make sure that students understand that what all they can have in common between them. We won't read all these tonight, but I do want to point out one thing that I think is really fascinating for students and teachers to remember about paraphrasing is that lengthwise, it can be shorter or even longer than the original, because if you're taking something that's super technical or really dense and you want to make it more accessible for people, you might need to write more. You might need to explain more of the concepts, and that could mean your piece could be longer. So that's a really big aha for students, is to not feel like there's a limit when they're writing a paraphrase. Yeah. There is, on the other hand, a limit for summarizing. It should be generally a quarter to at most half of the length, but really more towards the quarter of the original article or source's length. And so that's really important for students to have as a good gauge of am I writing too much for my summary?
Well, and that's a really good scaffolding thing too to do, is to pare down, okay, get to 3/4. Okay, now get to a half. Now,
yes.
Because when you keep breaking it down, it's just kind of like what you were doing with, shrinking. When you take the cake to the cupcake to, I already forgot. No, we didn't do that. That wasn't one.
Yeah.
Like a cake pop. Let's just say a cake pop, right? Like you're going down, you're going down. So, that can be a really good strategy for students who are struggling with summarizing is it's okay to have it a little bit longer at first. And then, okay, keep paring down to those really important pieces.
Yeah, exactly. And I love to just also point out, on the flip side, back to paraphrasing, you can integrate direct quotations. We love just phrases at the paraphrase level, and just a few, right? We're not talking about a lot of quotations, but that's just really nice to pull in a little bit of direct wording from the original source. So they're both obviously very important for students to know how to do. A ton of overlap, but then the key differences are important to have students really think through. So next up Oh, I love this slide. It's just beautiful, Tabitha.
I know, my little poison. Well, when we were looking at this quote, we saw the word antidote, and immediately I thought of those little poison bottles, right, from like Disney cartoons. Because paraphrasing is the antidote to plagiarism, and it is the shortcut to true understanding. Again, like what I was talking about earlier, I remember when I first met Amber and we were talking about paraphrasing, I was nervous because I taught for Florida. I taught in Florida for 8 years. And I never touched not plagiarism. I touched plagiarism. I never touched paraphrasing because our district was like, don't teach it. We want the kids to only directly quote. We don't want them putting anything in their words. And it scared me, but it's so important for them to know that there is like an anti-plagiarism, and there is a way to do it without plagiarism. And honestly, like they need to understand what it looks like to use someone else's words in their own writing and still have their own voice in it.
Yes. Yeah. And we won't get to this tonight, but one thing that came up today in discussions with teachers was about, well, how do you go from like paraphrasing to like analysis of the piece? And I'm like, yes, that's the next part of this, right? That you have to first have them truly understand. And there is not a better way to truly understand than to take the information and put it into your own words, which is what paraphrasing is all about. If you can do that, you fully understand it. And from there, you can then make connections to have deeper analysis, to get to what does this mean? Why does this matter? What's important about this? So the analysis it actually grows from the paraphrasing. So can't wait to get into that because that is so important for students to do in their writings as well. But right now tonight, just paraphrasing. And we actually have 8 strategies that we teach for paraphrasing and summarizing, but you can see there's only 3 lines. So we're only going to do 3 tonight. We're going to break it apart and give you just a few every night or every week that we're meeting, just so that you can fully process them and take them back to your classroom. So the first one is actually keep, right? That's bizarre as a strategy for paraphrasing. We're saying actually, oh no, keep words that are in the original source. But we don't want students to get so scared of being caught for or blamed for plagiarism that they think they have to change up every single word. Because honestly, there's a lot of words that can be left from the original source in their paraphrase. It's just the order and how they're being pulled in that they need to be mindful of. So that's strategy 1.
Oh, can I add something to that? It's also important, like, as you're looking at that, there are some words that you need to keep. I was literally just talking to Amber about this yesterday because I was working on a skills focused activity on restating or rephrasing a writing prompt instead of just restating it. And the prompt I was working on was on the women's suffrage movement. And the thing is, there is not another word for that. Like it needs to stay, right? Like
we should not.
The female empowerment campaign, right? And they would be like, what is this? So there are some times when you're paraphrasing and there are words like that like they need to stay. Like similarly, I was working on one about pollution and the word microplastics kept coming up. That is a specific academic word that needs to be kept. So sometimes there are words that you need to keep, and encouraging students to use synonyms on some of those words just makes them look like they've spent too much time in a thesaurus.
Exactly. And it makes their paraphrase not accurate at all. So that's what that's strategy 1. And it is a really important one to do. And the way that we annotate that is we highlight key words in yellow. One little tip on this that you'll see pop up as we work on this with different levels of writing is one kind of way to help students start to find these keep words are to look for nouns and then also numbers. Like some nouns can have synonyms to them, yes. So it's not like a surefire always. But nouns are really hard to replace a lot of the times. They're very specific words. And then also numbers, right? Like if the number is 5, like there's like 5, recycle bins. We don't want students to say less than 6, but more than 4 recycle. That's just weird, right?
Or a middle schooler would definitely do it in another language. They would be like,
Cinco.
Cinco. Oh my gosh, Quattro is 4. Cinco is 5.
Yes. So then strategy number 2 is rephrase. And this is the probably the one that's most synonymous with paraphrasing because it's about finding synonyms. But one of our biggest things here is we don't want to stop at the word level, which is what most students do. They go word by word and find another way to say it. And it sounds just like that. It sounds robotic. It sounds forced. And it's what we call a parallel paraphrase. And it's not a great paraphrase. It actually will send off kind of plagiarism alarms, even though it's not exactly plagiarism. It's in line with it because you can just go word for word and change it and have some semblance of it, but you
lose a lot. You lose some meaning too when you go word by word versus phrases, right? Because some phrases have a very specific meaning within, their containment. And if you do word by word, then you get, female empowerment campaign. And if you, said that to someone, you would be like, you remember the female empowerment campaign of the 1900s? They would be like, I'm so sorry, what?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So rephrasing is huge. And we really want, no matter the level, other than our K and firsties, we're going to do our kinder and firsties, we're going to do with the word level a lot. But as you can, even with our youngest learners, we want to move to the phrases and the entire sentences or section levels for this. And then our last one is restructure, which is just an easy way to remember that we want to rearrange the order of the ideas that we are paraphrasing. It gets away from that parallel paraphrase as well, where we're not going exactly in the same order as the original source. So these three, and let me tell you how we annotate. So with rephrase, we put a box around the word or phrase or sentence, and then we brainstorm in bubbles what are other ways to say it. And then to restructure, we just draw a curved line with arrows on it to say, oh, we're gonna kind of reorder what is here with what's there. So these three are really the heavy lifters. The other ones, they're really powerful and important too, but about 80% of the work for paraphrasing and for summarizing are going to come from these three. What can I keep? What can I rephrase? And what can I restructure?
I think when you're talking about restructuring, that can be really scary for kids because they're like, I don't know another way to write this sentence. And I think a really good way to kind of start teaching them is have them say it backwards. Like, what can they flip flop? Because the more time your students spend restructuring their sentences, I mean, the more varied sentence structure they have in their overall writing.
Yes. I'm so glad you said that. That's exactly it. Yeah. Just kind of flip-flopping the order of the sentence is huge. So we're going to take a look at these three strategies at three different levels, kind of lower elementary, kind of middle elementary, and possibly early middle school, and then kind of most of secondary, kind of what could it look like in very short snippets, right? So this is a riveting book, let me tell you, and you're going to get to hear the whole book over the course of these series here, but riveting book about who has eggs, okay? I know you're at the edge of your seats already. So who has eggs? A cow does not have eggs. Spoiler. All right, so we're going to press pause already and think about how can we paraphrase that information, just literally the information about the cow. And just as we talked about, paraphrasing means to mix it up like a blender. So again, if you're a teacher, especially I'm not going to say that. I think of all ages. Watching something get blended up into a smoothie, watching fruit get blended up, it's going to stick with them. And then they get to taste it and enjoy it. And it just makes learning so much sweeter and nutritious, right? So all good.
You also have you could have like a YouTube smoothie going on in the background of because that swirling motion as the colors get mixed in. Oh, it's so cathartic.
Right? Yes, exactly. So we're going to take this and you can see there are two more strategies listed here. We'll come back to those at a future one. There's 5 for our lower grade students, and then we beef it up to 8 with our upper grade students. But again, the first 3 are the same, right? That's the neat thing. They're learning this in kinder and they're learning this in 8th grade and all the way in AP English, that there are these same strategies. So just imagine what that does for student skill sets, right? So what words can we keep? A cow does not have eggs. Well, I really should not change the word cow, right? Like a cow is a cow all day long.
I'm going to call it like a beef dog. No. I couldn't know myself. See, that's one of those words you got to keep. There's just not another word for cow.
Right. And then also eggs, right? So those 2 words, there's just not another way to say cow or egg. So those are the 2 words out of this sentence that we are going to say are keep words. And so they're highlighted in yellow. What can we rephrase? Well, oh, that should be on have. Hold on. Operator error. Let's fix that. Let me come back over here. I think. No. Where is it? Okay, imagine that's on eggs. Not on eggs, on half. Where did it go? Let's fix that. Oh, there's always something we have to work on. Let's see.
Yeah. It makes it real.
It does make it real. This is real time, real learning, real work here. Where is...
Dogs don't have eggs.
Okay, I'm going to stop for just a second so I can fix this, I think, and get it. Why will it not let me edit? Edit this slide. Okay, hang tight. This is so good, but we got to fix this because I need you to see it correctly. Where is our egg writing? The riveting story. Just hang tight. It's coming. It's coming. The write up. I can't talk and do this at the same time. Oh, I pulled it down into our other one.
Okay. Nixie's toy next to me is like crinkling. I don't know if you can hear that.
No, we can't. Okay. Hang tight, everyone. Where did this... Okay, hold on. It's so weird. It's like in presentation mode for me, so I can't... Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm in. Just a second. 3 seconds here. We're going to have it.
I'm going to count.
Oh, okay.
I'm also going to make a bingo card of how many times you mention Steve Graham. And at the end, I'm going to reward myself with something when I've made a line.
He's just, there's just not very many people who just are brilliant and get everything right, but he does. He does. Okay, we are truly back in action. Let me just refresh this page and go back here and share. Hang tight, everyone. It's coming back. I think I can. Oh, yes. Where's my share? Now I just have to remember how to do my. Here we go. Here we go. It's coming.
Even teachers have, everybody has technical errors.
Okay, we're back. Here we go. Okay, so yes. All right. Keep words were cow, eggs, rephrase, have is our word here. That's a great clue on rephrase. Look for verbs and look for adjectives, right? So just the formatting got a little wonky. Just had to move it over. That's it. So the word have is what we want to rephrase. How else can we say have? And that gets into like, what's the true meaning of the sentence, right? A cow does not have eggs. Does that mean like they possess it, like they own it? Or are we talking about like actually laying the eggs, right? Like a chicken, right? So that's what we have to kind of think through here. What's the meaning of this sentence? And it's a farm-based book, right? So we're going to go with that they make or lay eggs. We're not going to say that like they own it like in their little pocketbook, right? So a cow does not make eggs. A cow does not lay eggs. So when we think about our youngest learners, just doing these two pieces with them it's going to be so helpful to get them just to start to think about what are the keywords and then what are other ways that I can say some of the information that I'm reading and learning. And that's going to help solidify the information. So this is one way that we can paraphrase it. Cows do not lay eggs, right? So we've kept cow. And in this case, we made it plural. That wasn't necessarily needed, but it happened in this paraphrase. And then lay instead of have, right? So it's a minor change. Would this pass for a paraphrase in an upper grade class? Definitely not. But again, we're talking our kinder, our first, our second, our emerging, our striving readers and writers potentially.
This shows that your student is not too young to do this.
Right?
Right? Yeah. Like, because when you initially look at this sentence, you're like, I can't paraphrase that. It says exactly what it says. But look, we just paraphrased it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually kind of harder to do it with these short, simple
sentences. Yes, it is. It really is.
Yeah. So, okay, next page in the book. Spoiler alert, a pig does not have eggs.
I'm learning.
So we're going to do the same thing again. What can we keep, everyone? Pig, eggs, right? What can we rephrase? We know this one too. It's going to be have again. And guess what? We're going to stick with the same two. And that's really okay with our youngest learners to do this, right? And so here's that paraphrase content. A pig does not lay eggs. Okay. So when we think about our youngest learners, that's really enough. That's a great opportunity for them to just practice those strategies. And we'll talk about restructuring. Actually, let me go back to this for a second. If we thought about just flipping and saying eggs are not laid by pigs or eggs are not laid are not made by cows. Then we've done that restructuring one. So that one could be done all orally. It could be written as well, and that's in a future slide that we'll pull in.
You could go Yoda style and say, "Lay eggs, pigs do not."
There you go. I love it. All right, so here they are again, just to remind us of the 3 to keep. We highlight in yellow, rephrase, we box and brainstorm like you saw with the verbs, and annotation for restructuring is those arrows, which we'll do more on this next one. So this is the one of the resources we share with teachers when we do paraphrasing at the upper elementary into early middle school age. The Eyes of Animals. It's a little book that we have that we designed specifically to help with teaching paraphrasing. So it's all about animals and their eyesight. So here's one page about owls. Tabitha, you want to read this page for us?
I love this picture of this owl so much too. Owls do not see color the way people do. Their world appears in shades of black, white, and gray. This helps them see clearly to hunt at night.
Yeah, so great information about owls. Notice it's not a ton of information. We're not going to start off paraphrasing even in our upper elementary with, whole articles. We're going to start with just a few sentences here. And as we walk through these strategies, let's see. Well, owls we can keep. Color arguably could be changed out, but we can also keep it. So there's not like a right or wrong list here, right? There's not like there's set words that we have to keep and set words that you have to change. It's really a conversational back and forth between students and the article, students together, students and the teacher, right? So these are the 3 out of this piece that we want to keep. One question that came up today when I was working with students was like, if a word appears multiple times, do we have to highlight it every time? I'm like, no, this is not a word search, right? You are just highlighting the word so that it can help you with your paraphrase. So you don't want owls highlighted 6 times because that's not helping you come up with the paraphrase. You just need it once. So only highlight the words 1 time. All right, what can we rephrase? Well, there's a lot, right? Even a noun like people, right? We can definitely rephrase that to humans, human beings. Persons was one that was recently shared. I'm like, yeah, we could, but I think maybe like human beings would be good. Now, look, we're going to go a whole phrase here. In shades of black, white, and gray. Now, that might be kind of tricky to think about how else can we say that. But
I think that's a perfect example of not going word by word, right? Because this is a moment where you kind of need like the Crayola 8 color for the sentence to make sense, right? Because you wouldn't want to say in shades of like onyx, cloud, and ash, right? Yeah, so this is one of those instances where like this is a good opportunity to rephrase the phrase.
Exactly. Yeah. And so what's a way that we could say this? We can say grayscale, right? Which I always make the connection to printers with students.
I was just about to say, you could say in the shades of my Epson printer.
Yeah, exactly. But how cool. And if they don't know that, then that's a great reference for them about like, yeah, it's black and white printing, right? It has the shades and the gray scale from white to black, which includes all the grays in between. So that's a really cool way of showing that rephrasing at a phrase level. Okay. See clearly to hunt at night. Okay. Now I'm writing them over to just spatially have enough space on here, but students, like you saw with the pig and the cow, they could just go off of this on their page and do the brainstorming around it. There's no reason to rewrite it. I just am doing that for the sake of the slide. Oh, and that should be touching there. They're stellar nocturnal hunters. And it means they search for prey throughout the night, right? So those are 2 different ways that we can say that they see clearly to hunt at night.
Yeah. And nocturnal is like a really nice buzzword, right? Because that's like a specific academic vocabulary word.
Yes. And this goes back to those different analogies we did with paraphrasing where like you're actually making the writing better, right? Mm-hmm. That's an amazing feeling for a student to be like, wow, I paraphrased that published book and my writing's like here we've got people and owls. We want to reverse the order. So we want to start with information about people and then pull in the other parts. So unlike humans, right? Owls only see in grayscale, but this actually makes them stellar nocturnal hunters. So we're sharing the exact same information, arguably better in our paraphrase. And reversing the order with that restructure as that last strategy. But
And with restructuring it, you also like scaled it down to one sentence.
which happens, right? Sometimes it can be shorter. And I love that the sentence is complex, which is way, way better to me than having 3 simple sentences. Let's go for one powerful, complex sentence and share some stronger vocabulary. So that's what it looks like at kind of the middle elementary, early middle school level. And now this is coming from an article titled "The Scottish Police Sent Hogwarts Express to Rescue Stranded Families." It was in the Washington Post, and it's a few years old. It's from 2017, but I mean, Harry Potter is forever amazing. So we can write about Harry Potter anytime. And so you can see what's been highlighted here, right? Lots of words that are okay to pull in. And this was a much longer article. The gist of it was that this family went camping, and their canoe floated away overnight. And so when they woke up, they were completely stranded, and they couldn't hike the 3 miles back to their car. So they called the police, and thinking there's going to be some kind of rescue sent for them. They ended up sending a train because where the family was camping was very close to a very remote train track, but it happened to be the track that the Jacobite went down, which was the Hogwarts Express, which is just wild, right? So the kid, that became like what was almost a ruined vacation, became something so cool and worthy.
Those kids will never forget that in their whole life,
right? Yeah, how cool that your vacation ends up as an article in the Washington Post. So just what's so neat here is just seeing the robustness of these strategies, right? Like this is what they did of finding those keywords, trains, and then steam train, right? We could have maybe taken out train since we got steam train down there, because there's really not another way to say steam train. We don't want to say water vapor train, right? That would be weird. But
dog cart.
Yeah. And lots of, proper nouns in this one. Wizards and witches. We talked about that a lot today. And they're like, yeah, there's just not another way to say wizards and witches. Like we needed to leave that. But you can see then what they did find ways to change. And my favorite is the runs on the remote set of railroad tracks. This was actually done in a reading strategies class for striving 8th grade readers and writers. And what I loved is that, they immediately latched onto the word remote. And if we went word by word, we might come up with like controller, right? Or like TV, buttons, right? Like that's not at all what we're talking about here with remote. And they were able to learn a new meaning of that multiple meaning word of remote because of the context about this was a train that ran in this very isolated, secluded, uninhabited was another word that we talked about. So that was just so neat to see that happen and look at all of the banks now of words and phrases that they can pull in that are very much going to ensure they will not be plagiarizing, right? So from here, what I love about this is we actually pulled it into a level 1 writing. So this was their prompt. From your paraphrase notes, create a single sentence that captures what the Jacobite train is. And so what I love about this is that, the verb is not very strong in this writing, right? The Jacobite is is not really a word or a verb that we want to have a lot in our writing, but it also is okay, right? We had so much brain power going on paraphrasing that we were like, it's totally fine, right? Like, let's leave it for now because the richness was in the paraphrase. The Jacobite is a classic steam train that travels through a secluded region and was used as the Hogwarts Express in the Harry Potter series. That's what it is.
I also had a history lesson today because I was convinced that the Jacobites were something else, and it is. It was a movement of people in 16th, 17th, 15th century England. They were a religious group of people because when Amber showed this to me, I was like, that's not a train, that's a group of people. So, sometimes you have a good history lesson in this.
There you go. Yeah. And that little one, imagine if it floated, because I can't move it at the moment, over to right here by the word used, because the last thing that we did was that restructure, and we did it within the level 1 design, which is what we love to show teachers and students that, one sentence writing, is not easy to do, right? There's so much that has to be put into a level 1 writing that it should feel difficult. It should feel robust. And then what you can do with rearranging that whole idea of like, it's a game of Tetris as you are thinking about how do you want to put your sentence together. What the students thought about today was that we could start with the phrase used as the Hogwarts Express in the Harry Potter series. The Jacobite is a classic steam train that travels through a secluded region. And we could say of Scotland, right? Because we could add that little part in too. But that just moving that phrase to the front of that sentence, it makes that very weak verb like completely a non-issue. And I love that, right? So having students just restructure is not just for paraphrasing, it's for writing as a whole. But I love that the paraphrasing strategies will make students think about that as something they can do for their content anytime they're writing. And so there's that slide again because it's just so good, but we'll end with this one. So you take it away, Tabitha.
Yes, when students paraphrase, they proved they've moved from copying to comprehending. And that is so important, especially when you think about how your students are going to take a writing test at the end of the year, right? When they're able to paraphrase, you know that they've learned it. And paraphrasing is such a great way to gauge student learning. Did you understand what you read? And sometimes we think of comprehension as a really easy thing, but it's really sometimes not. And if a student can't write down, what they've read in their own words, did they truly learn it? And so this really is a great way to gauge your students' learning.
Yeah. So more to come on this. Thanks for being with us tonight on our first installment of our series on paraphrasing and summarizing. So you've got those 3 strategies to try. Everything that you saw in the presentation will link for you to be able to share with your students, or even do that article or those books with your students. So that'll all be coming for you. And we just can't wait to see students get better at this all-important skill so that they grow as readers and as writers. So with that, happy Wednesday night. We'll see you soon.